So, last time on Dragon Ball Z. More
But
of the
you don't-
same. This is Dragon Ball Z. We're doing the same thing over and over again.
For how many videos?
I went off the
Minimum of-
ride.
Minimum of 5. Let's just...
I went off the ride. Okay, so, last time we left off, the guy said, we don't expect a finished product. God damn it. So, we're like, okay, that's great. I messed up my pattern. And so, we went away thinking, okay, we'll just do as much as we can.
Right.
And whatever we have for the demo, that's what we have for the demo.
Correct.
And so I focused on, like, functionality. I got it so that it was reading the response format from Google really well. And I made it so you could create unique events inside the app. And I started working on the muting abilities. Like, I figured out what I needed to call to mute or unmute the phone, and I figured out how to create a background process to do that.
Okay.
But I didn't set it up such that it would find the next one and set a background process to do that, etc. So it was like all the framework was there,
Right.
but the functionality wasn't quite done. Like, all we needed to do was connect and send requests to Google, and then we also needed to create the background processes. So to mute it, it would start a wake-up call. So the phones can do this thing where it sets a delayed wake-up for X number of seconds.
Uh-huh.
And what you do is you say, okay, my time is now. The next start or end time of an event is this. So I'm going to wake up in the difference between now and then.
Okay.
And, you know, there's a little more...
Obviously, that's a somewhat simplified version, I'm sure, of what you
Yeah.
actually end up doing.
There's a little bit more to it, and
But
it doesn't matter. That we just
coding
needed to do
for
that.
dummies, that's basically what you're doing.
Mhm. It was basically just like a tiny little for loop to find the next event, starter, end date, and then just if this, mute the phone, if that, unmute the phone.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if the this and that are the conditions on when you want to mute or unmute.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so the framework was there, and we were feeling, you know, decent about it,
Right.
and we go and do our demo.
Okay.
And the only negative feedback we get is, so when we made this, I was programming on my computer, and it was just so much easier to run it on an emulator on my computer. So my computer would pretend to be a phone system, and I would
Right.
run it on that, just because it was so
Right.
much easier to compile and run and do everything really
Right.
fast.
Yeah.
And we did, since I was focusing on functionality, whew, I didn't spend time on getting it on the phone.
Oh, God, no.
And
No!
the only negative thing we heard was, why is this not on the phone? And we're like, okay, well, here's this and that. And then he said something about priorities or something. Ah, come on. He said,
Oh.
like, this...
This is the context where he said you shouldn't be focusing on the points, right?
Yeah.
So he said that
No.
after the president... No, wait, sorry.
So, let me get to that point so people aren't confused in the video.
Oh, sorry.
So, like, there was that where he said, why isn't it on the phone? And then he said that this is very concerning, the amount of progress you've made. And it feels like that there was, bad priority, like, your prioritizing was really bad. And that
Oh my God.
was technically my responsibility, because I was the Scrum Master, which was basically, I had to give everyone homework to do, you know.
So it was your fault that the
Yeah.
programming that they couldn't do wasn't done properly.
Yep.
Okay, that's bullshit. Here's the... Okay,
So that's not the worst part of it either.
Wait, can I just say my primary
Yes.
beef just that first part of it?
Yes.
Okay. This is my primary issue, is the fact that before you made the presentation, you asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew coming in what kind of situation you were in.
Yeah, it
Now,
was the teacher. It was the teacher who said this, and it was the TA we talked to.
Right. So, A, they're not communicating, which apparently no one fucking communicates now, which is the stupidest fucking piece of bullshit. Okay, clearly I don't have issues with people not communicating.
Not at all.
But the thing is, like, then you go back to the teacher and say, look, we talked to the TA about this, and this is what the TA told us.
Well,
And now
that's
you're
the
telling
next
us
part
this.
of the story, so I'll get to that in a moment.
Okay. But my main beef is the fact that you actually asked before you did the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have more of an issue if you didn't ask and then came in with that product.
Yep. Like, we were saying, we're having trouble with this, and then when we came there, he's like, oh, the amount of stuff you've done isn't enough. And he was like, as graduate students, you really should have more, and all these things. And then he said, like, I have confidence in your group's skill level, which is a high compliment in graduate school. Bark, bark.
Yeah. We got a dog, by the way. That's probably one of the bigger pieces of news around here. But anyway.
So he said something like, you know, he had confidence in our ability to pull this through, but we had a lot of work to do, etc., etc. And he seemed to mainly harp on the fact that it wasn't on the phone, it was on an emulator. That's what we gathered from that.
But finished! You weren't supposed to have a finished product.
So he also said during the presentation, during the feedback, he said, we expect a finished product.
Okay, now you need to get on the same page with your TA.
So he said, we don't expect the, like, polish to be there. Like, it can look really ugly, or some of the secondary characteristics can be not working, but we expected...
The easy shit doesn't need to be done, but all the hard shit needs to be done.
That's kind of what he said. And if we had known that, we would have done that. But we didn't. And
because you were told something different.
Yeah, so at the time, we didn't really make 2 and 2 together. Like, we didn't like, put it together. Like, I was just too depressed and anxiety to stand up for myself at that point. But when we went back and as a group and talked about it, they're like, hey, wait a minute. The TA told us the exact opposite of what we were told.
Right.
So...
This is when you go back to the TA.
This is when we sent an email to the TA saying, hey, we're a little concerned about the presentation and how it went, considering all the negative feedback we got was because it was not finished, and maybe we misunderstood what you said when we talked to you on X day. Are we going to lose many points over this? You know, just trying to figure out how bad it was. And, oh boy. So this TA responds to this, and he says, like, it's this, like, multiple paragraph email back to us. And it starts out with, like, I understand your concern, yada yada, and then says something about, like, however, the fact that you're making this about the points rubs me the wrong way, especially as someone who plans to continue in academia and teaching and all that stuff. So he really got angry, or rubbed the wrong way.
About the wrong issue.
Rubbed the wrong way that we were...
You're not paying attention to the main point, Mr. TA. Obviously, they don't watch these videos, or you'd probably get kind of in trouble, wouldn't you? Maybe.
Whatever.
But look, Mr. TA.
I'm not naming him at all.
He'll never hear this, but this is my message.
I'm not naming anyone by name, so, like, it's not defamation or whatever. This is my blog. Whatever.
Right.
Go away.
Right. This.
Oh, fuck!
Internet. Oh, wow. $5. Holy fuck. You weren't getting out of that.
No.
Okay. Dear Mr. TA, here is my issue with this. You told us we didn't need a finished... Okay, now I understand why your group members were getting so pissed when you told me this, because I didn't
Yes.
either didn't get the entire story or didn't understand the
I
entire story.
was too depressed to provide details because I
Yes,
was
that's
just
true. You
resigned
were kind of
to it.
So, okay.
Because I thought it was my fault because everything they listed was like technically things that were my responsibility. So I felt it was all my fault, etc., etc.
Right. Yeah.
Might as well throw
Yeah,
myself out the window. I actually considered, like, if I hurt myself enough to put myself in the hospital, will they get an extension on the project and not have to suffer a bad grade because of me?
That's just not healthy, dude.
No, it isn't.
I'm not saying it as a criticism of you.
No.
I'm saying it as a criticism of getting triggered to the point where you start thinking that kind of... Like, this is like the point I got to at
Well,
McDonald's,
it's not
right?
healthy that I thought that, but it's also not healthy that the school is providing an environment that we actually think like this. Like, I have a hard enough time with failure, but graduate school, you cannot regularly fail. Otherwise, you'll get kicked out. So it's like a really bad environment for that kind of thing. It's, Anyway.
Okay. Dear Mr. TA. Okay? You told us that we did not need a finished product for this demo. So what we did was we were struggling. We came to you. Wait, this is a different teacher than the one with the shitty office hours, right?
Yep, this is a different one. So
Okay.
he's not a new teacher. He's a different one than I ranted about. So
Okay. So we were struggling with this project. We came to you for help. You told us we didn't need a finished product. We went and presented this, and basically all of the feedback we got that was negative was that, hey, why is this not a finished product?
yeah.
Now, either you talk to the teacher or try to kind of help us reconcile why when you said this to us and then we took your word for it and then we basically got penalized for an understanding we had. Help us make sense of this. And is this discrepancy going to affect our grade? And then he goes off on some tirade, right?
Yeah,
And
he talks about, like, why it needed to be a finished product and all these wonderful things. We didn't...
This is when you bring back the email of, if you have the email, this is where you literally bring it back and go, look, you sent us an email saying this wasn't supposed to be a finished product.
It was in person. There's no evidence.
Of course, right. Fucking hearsay.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, so you told us in person it wasn't supposed to be a finished product, and now you're saying within the context of writing that it was supposed to be a finished product. Therefore, you're actually being contradictory and hypocritical in this situation, and we need to sit down and talk about this with everyone.
So, we didn't respond to the email that was berating us for being worried about points. Because, like, anything we would have responded with at that point would not have been appropriate to say. I'm just gonna say that. So we didn't... Oh, sweet, no! God damn it. No.
Okay, so...
God, I need Yoshi!
This is like such a fucking mess.
At least the Wiggler isn't here.
I'm getting stressed about it. I wasn't even fucking involved in it. Like, oh my god.
Okay, I got this. I got this. No, I don't got this! I'm gonna run out of goddamn time. Yoshi!
Okay.
Haha!
Okay. No.
No! Oh god!
My god, lag. Seriously. Why? Why lag? Well, if I could ever actually get there.
So, we didn't respond to his email because he was berating us about asking about points, and anything we would have replied with would have been not good. So, we just decided to wait until he finally ended it with, the amount of points we took off was reasonable and would not affect our ability to still get an A in the class. So, like, okay, whatever, we'll see how it goes. But then, we get our grade back. And, it turns out we got 80% on the presentation part. So we got 86 overall because the presentation part was 70% of the final grade. So 80% of 70% plus 20 gives you 86.
Right.
And that's the only comment that was there. It was just 80% of presentation. And so...
Okay, now you talk to the teacher. Like, and go, look, here's the situation. What?
So what we did is we sent the TA one more email to talk to him about it, because the teacher usually doesn't grade anything. It's usually the TAs. So we just said, we would like to talk to you about our grade for this project, and it was another project too. And he replied saying, all right, but I don't really have control over that part of the grade. So we still go in and talk to him and try to figure out what the heck went wrong.
Right.
And he just tells us more of the same, except it gets a little frustrating because... itchy nose, no. Damn it. Because, like, one part we got marked down on this other thing, and we asked him about it. He said, well, I try to grade this like it's a professional published paper, so that's the kind of quality I expect, and all these things.
Okay, but that means you're involved in grading.
But then... No, this was for a different part that it was a
Okay, it doesn't matter. That means you're involved in some portion of the grading,
he wasn't,
which means...
He wasn't...
I don't care at that point.
He wasn't...
I don't even care.
The part of the grade for the presentation was discussion between him and the professor, so he can't change the grade on his own. That's what he was trying to say.
Fair. However, then in
let me finish
Sorry.
what he said, and then we can rant about how terrible he is.
Okay.
So, what he said was, one part he was like, I grade it like a professional paper, so that's the quality I expect. And we're like, okay, fine. Then this other part we got marked down points, and he said, oh, well, and we said, normally you wouldn't have to say that in a professional paper. That's unnecessary to say. And we were missing it, and that's why we lost points, because it didn't exist in the paper. And he said, oh, well, this is not a professional paper, it's for the class, so you need to have everything for the class. And at that point, we kind of just checked out, and we're like, okay, we need to talk to the teacher.
Yeah, that's called double standard hypocrisy land, and then... But this is my point, though. Okay, so
now you can tell me how terrible he is.
Okay, if the TA cannot directly affect the grade of your presentation, but is involved in the discussion in which the presentation has context to be graded upon, this is when the TA brings up, look, they contacted me and said they were trying to do this thing and they couldn't get it to work, and I told them that it didn't need to be a finished product, and that's why this discrepancy is happening.
Oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that point
What?
exactly. I'll get to that point very soon. So, most of the things he said were pretty much identical to what we knew already. So we decided to contact the teacher and talk about our grade. And we went to him and said to him that, okay, we understand... Oh, god damn it. We understand, why this needs to be a high quality and all these things, but the TA said this. He said that
Right.
it didn't have to be a polished thing and all these things. And we thought, the main reason we lost points was because it wasn't on the phone.
Right.
So...
Okay.
Oh,
wait, you're not
Oh, god damn it!
You're about to die. Sorry. I forgot. I forgot I can't even get there, so I can't talk.
So, and we explained all these, and he told us about, you know, a part of the human-centered computing aspect is the human part, so having it on an emulator is a much different experience than having it on the phone, but the amount of points we took off wasn't that much. It was just to make you realize this kind of concept, and you'll never forget this, you know, story. It's a living example.
Asshole.
Hold on, though. So...
Wait, it's worse?
No, it's just, it's more reasonable than you think, and it's worse than you think. So... he says all these things about how the amount of points isn't that much, and all these things, and yada yada yada. And we're like, okay, how did you do that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm a special kind of individual.
We're like,
but I'm Ching. Okay, we're in the special levels.
okay, so we're like, okay, but 20% of the presentation doesn't seem like barely any amount of points, which is what he was making it seem like.
Right.
And he says, oh, no, you lost most of your points because you didn't have the Google API working.
Holy... Okay, did somebody speak up about the fact that that's what you were talking to the TA about?
This is when
somebody said that in the context of that conversation, correct?
Yes, we did. So we're like, okay, we only lost like 5 points because it wasn't on the phone. That's fine. That's fine.
Fair, yeah. Fine.
Because we didn't even think about it. So yes, now I will always remember. It needs to be on the device that you're demoing. Okay.
Okay, fair.
It's a good story for an employer later.
Okay.
But once he said that, we're like, that's exactly what we went to see the TA about, who said not to worry about it, who said we could pivot if we needed to.
Right.
Then the teacher says, then he says that the TA was, you know, during the discussion was, you know, really in favor of our group and all these things. But he told us, he said that we went and talked to him, yes, but he said that, like, we didn't have to have a full product, complete product, but it was only if, like, the polish wasn't there. Like, it could have looked ugly, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But everything else had to work, and we said, no. We specifically asked him about the API, and he said not to worry about the API. He never used the word polish when we went to talk to him.
Right.
And he's like, oh, really?
And you said,
yes, really. Yes, really. So the teacher says, okay, well, maybe there was a miscommunication going on here.
No shit, dude.
And he said he was going to contact the TA and see what he said.
Oh, God, that means the TA is going to get back... Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm doing this really bad thing where I'm just, like, jumping 5 steps ahead of everything lately. Which we'll get to, we eventually talk about my shit that's been happening.
We'll get there in a moment. But, so he says he's going to contact the TA again to... double check to see what the TA remembers, and if it coincides with what we told him in the office, then yes, okay, we can readjust the grade.
Now it's going to turn into a... Okay, continue.
However, if we don't coincide, then we might have to create a meeting where everyone's in there and we discuss these things.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, we're like, okay, that's good. You contact the TA, and we await your response. And then a couple days later, he replies an email to us saying, okay, here's what the TA said. And the TA said that he told us it had to be a full product, and that the polish didn't have to be there. So,
And then you got... Please tell me you got back to the teacher and basically said, look, the TA is freaking lying.
Well, like...
at that point, you throw the TA under the bus. I'm totally cool at that point.
So we replied saying, okay, most of what he said is how we remember it, but he left out an important part that we specifically asked him about the API. And he said not to worry about it. Cough, cough. So, he talks to the TA a little more, and finally, they can suck. We get a regrade on our project, and we get most of the points back. So,
Right.
great.
It's not like you want all of the points back, because the point about it being on the phone is valid at that
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
Okay, fine.
We're at 25 minutes, so I will talk about the regrade and where we stand in this whole mess in the next video.